All right, good afternoon to all the attendees. I see that folks are joining little by little. We'll give everybody a few minutes here to finish joining, and then we'll get kicked off. And I'll share a few housekeeping rules before we get started here. Excellent. Okay, we're a little bit past 2 p.m. Eastern. Let me start by saying a big thank you to all of today's attendees. Glad you guys are with us. I know we've got plenty of customers in the audience, which is always exciting. Before I get kicked off here, I want to highlight a couple of housekeeping rules. Number one, you should have the availability to allow questions to be submitted through the Zoom webinar panel. Throughout the session, please feel free to type in your questions, and then myself, Diego, Alex, and Sergio will be answering those questions throughout the session. We love collaboration. We love the Q&A, and usually we'll address any outstanding questions that way. Second housekeeping item is that we will be recording today's session. So I am going to go ahead and hit the record button, and then I will be distributing the recording, or our team will be distributing the recording following today's webinar. So with that said, I'll go ahead and jump in to what we've got planned for us today. Again, very excited for the topic that we'll be covering, really about enhancing your existing or upcoming payment processes inside of JD Edwards while simultaneously simplifying PCI compliance. To be clear, the scenario we're discussing here is a JD Edwards organization that accepts credit cards as a form of payment and wants to do that in an automated fashion. Under typical circumstances, a JD Edwards organization will have a non-integrated virtual terminal of some kind provided by a leading payment brand, something like a CyberSource, an Authorize.net, a Fiserv, where they basically type in the credit card information and then type in an amount, hit authorize or charge, and then reconcile that manually within JD Edwards later on. Of course, this is a disjointed process, and what Smarter Commerce does is that we bring that process together with standard JD Edwards payment processes at the sales order level and at the account receivable level. So we're excited to cover that with the team that's on today. By way of introduction, speaking obviously is Jerry Van Dalen, the Director of Sales here at Smarter Commerce. We're also joined by Alex Rodriguez, who's our Director of Technical Services. He'll spend a few minutes talking about the importance of PCI compliance, what exactly is PCI compliance, and why that should matter to your organization. And then Diego Fernandez, who is our Director of Product, will be handling a demonstration of Smarter Commerce so that the audience can get a firsthand look and feel for what an JD Edwards automated payment solution looks like. Before that, I wanted to share what our agenda is going to look like. I'll talk briefly about who is Smarter Commerce if we haven't met before, just provide some overview info. I'll provide a conceptual overview of our Smarter Commerce payments solution, the different facets of that solution. Of course, as I mentioned, Alex is going to jump in and talk to the payment security topic, and then we'll dive into a demo. So most of our time today is actually going to be dedicated on the actual demo. And then, of course, if we have a few minutes towards the end, we'll cover any outstanding questions. At the same time, we encourage you guys to ask your questions throughout the session. So, all right, with that said, who exactly is Smarter Commerce? Hey, we've been in the JD Edwards space for over 30 years. We've implemented JD Edwards hundreds of times in North America, South America, abroad as well. And throughout the years have grown to complete many, many projects, well over 500 Smarter Commerce projects. Now, of course, our history is as a JD Edwards partner and implementation partner. However, since the early 2000s, we began to realize that a lot of JD Edwards organizations were struggling to launch successful projects in the payment space because many of the solutions out there are just not designed to work with JD Edwards. So for the last 20 years, really what Smarter Commerce has been doing is focusing on JD Edwards integrated or JD Edwards connected solutions. As an organization, we're based in Miami, Florida, but we've got professionals working remote all across the United States, and we have an office of developers in San Jose as well. Now, our customer family is quite broad. This is by no means a complete list of customers. I know that we've got some customers on the call with us today. Thank you for joining. We're excited you guys are here. We wish we could include every logo on here, but this is just a quick snapshot. We've got well over 150 JD Edwards organizations using Smarter Commerce, a mix of B2B and B2C organizations, and then also a mix of different industries and sized corporations. I mean, some logos on the screen are doing under $100 million of annual revenue. And some of the other logos on the screen are doing well over $30 billion of annual revenue. And every one of our customers has found a way to work and partner with Smarter Commerce in a way that drives success. Now, we answered the who of what is of Smarter Commerce, but what about the what of Smarter Commerce? What exactly is Smarter Commerce? If you're looking for a textbook definition, it's really a family of solutions that help companies, particularly JD Edwards organizations, unite their commerce, payment, and retail initiatives or channels into one solution that integrates with JD Edwards. JD Edwards really is at the core of what Smarter Commerce is. And as I mentioned, we've got a family of solutions. We have a B2B and B2C digital commerce platform, an e-commerce platform with integration to JD Edwards. We partner with Avalara for sales tax compliance. We have a call center management solution, a retail solution. But of course, the subject of today's conversation is going to be around our payment processing solution. All of our solutions are OVI certified or Oracle Validated Integration certified, which means that we've gone through the formal process that Oracle provides to make sure that their partners that are making add-on solutions for JD Edwards really are doing a good job of developing the software, and that's exactly what we've done. So let's talk quickly about Smarter Commerce Payments. Smarter Commerce Payments has two sides of the coin, let's say. One side is what I'll call the sales order side, and the other side is what I'll call an invoice payment side. The sales order side is we're talking about Smarter Commerce Payments is really a JD Edwards native application that functions within the user experience of JD Edwards and allows for credit card sales and credit card authorization at the moment of sales order entry. So in this case, your customer service rep is building an order. The customer indicates they'd like to pay with a credit card. And that is what triggers the Smarter Commerce application. Now, at that point, Smarter Commerce gives you several options. A customer can pay using a new credit card, and we provide a mechanism to ingest that new credit card where the customer dictates that over the phone. We also provide a mechanism to have the customer emailed or texted a secure link where they can click and input their own credit card details. And of course, the benefit of that is that your team, your internal customer service reps, never have to hear any of the credit card information over the phone. And additionally, your team can use what's called a credit card on file or a saved credit card. Of course, this credit card information is not actually stored in JD Edwards. It's also not actually stored inside of Smarter Commerce either. It's stored at the gateway level, but it allows your customers to complete a transaction more quickly because they don't have to retype that information over and over again. Additionally, we have an integration to a payment terminal. That's a physical credit card device like the ones that we see at a gas station or any retail store. We've created an integration between JD Edwards sales order entry and a payment terminal. And then our payments application can also be used at third-party e-commerce platforms. So maybe today you're running Shopify or BigCommerce, or you have some other platform that's going to be taking credit card payments, and you'd like to integrate or bring in those payments into JD Edwards. Smarter Commerce has an API that allows for that. So Smarter Commerce Payments facilitates a lot of the processes at the sales order level, but it also does the same at the invoice payment level. And similar in fashion, Smarter Commerce Payments at the invoice level. Obviously, we're talking about a sales order that's already been shipped, pick, shipped. Now we've got an invoice. The customer calls in and says, hey, Jerry, I want to pay that invoice, $500. Great. Smarter Commerce allows for a account receivable personnel to accept payment for that open invoice. And of course, we close out that receivable. We post that payment. All of that is automated. We reconcile that payment. Everything is automated within JD Edwards because of our integration. And you can do that. You can accept that invoice payment using a credit card or an ACH transaction. An ACH is a bank-to-bank transaction, which again is helpful because you can avoid the merchant fees that are associated with a credit card. Similar to authorized by message or pay by message, as in sales order, Smarter Commerce for invoice payments also allows for an automated pay by email reminder for invoice payments. What this means is that Smarter Commerce will actually automatically email your customers on a weekly or bi-weekly basis, you decide, and let them know, hey, Jerry, you've got 5 outstanding invoices for the next 60 days, 30 days, 90 days, whatever it is. Click here to pay. And Smarter Commerce then allows the customer to click on an encrypted link where they can then view the invoices that are due and walk through an invoice payment process, again, using a credit card or ACH. The big win here is twofold. Number one, nobody from your AR team has to hear or type in sensitive cardholder data. And number two, your customers are now alerted of the invoices they have to pay and are given a self-service option for paying those invoices. Now, the invoice pay by email functionality is limited in the sense that it just provides summary level information for invoice payment. Now, if you want a complete e-payment portal, Smarter Commerce also enables what we call Smarter Commerce e-payments, which is a complete digital payment portal, an electronic invoice presentment and payment portal, which allows your customers to log in using a username and password, view all of their open invoices, view their invoice history. They can view a PDF copy of that invoice. They can view order status, how much credit they have, manage their payment devices, whether it's credit card or bank accounts, so on and so forth. All self-service from a portal online. They can schedule payments, set up automatic payments, recurring payments. It's a very powerful portal. And again, it's really a digital extension or a web extension of the existing Smarter Commerce payment capabilities. So that's kind of a run through of Smarter Commerce payments. Like I said, there's two sides to the coin. There's a sales order side, there's the invoice payment side. We're going to be seeing all of these capabilities in an actual demonstration in just a few minutes. However, before we dive into that, I did want to bring on our Director of Technical Services, Alex Rodriguez, to talk through how Smarter Commerce can help simplify payment security. Of course, every time that we talk about credit card information, it's important to note security needs to be at the center of how that solution is architected for obvious reasons. In the world of credit card fraud is a high risk. And so it's critical that payment solutions are architected from the ground up to simplify payment security. And so to speak to that, I've had Alex Rodriguez join on the webinar. And Alex, I'll let you speak to these next few slides, and then we'll transition to a demo.
Okay, good afternoon, everybody, and thank you, Jerry, for the introduction. My name is Alex Rodriguez, and I'm the Director of Technical Services for Smarter Commerce. And I'm going to share a little bit on the ways that Smarter Commerce can help with customers, both current and future customers, to help them to become PCI compliant. As a level 1 service provider, Smarter Commerce goes through an annual validation of all the security controls, and at the end we get what's called a report on compliance that we can share with customers that allows customers to see the processes that we follow to achieve PCI compliance. And as Jerry mentioned, we do not store or any card data within JD Edwards. Everything is tokenized and stored at the payment gateway. And then Smarter Commerce, as part of the solution that we deploy to customers, has something that's called the Smarter Commerce Pay Cloud or Smarter Commerce Cloud. And that's where we provide all the resources that are needed to integrate with the different payment gateways that Smarter Commerce supports. So right now we support 6 different payment gateways, PayPal, Braintree, and a few others that are available to support transactions globally. So pretty much anywhere in the world that you want to accept a credit card payment, we have a gateway that you can partner with. We also, through partnerships with Braintree Payments, offer for any customers that want to be able to take card present transactions. We can supply, we have an integration that works with certain uh, credit card devices for point-to-point encryption. So that's another way that we can facilitate the use of credit cards. So a little bit on PCI DSS and what it is. So essentially, the payment card industry created a common set of tools and different measures to help ensure the safe handling of the card data and any other sensitive information. For example, even name, address, the card security code, expiration date, all of that together with the card is considered sensitive. So what what we are able to do by not storing the card data in JD Edwards and instead storing a token or a reference number is we're able to essentially limit the scope of PCI, which is one of the things we've been focused on for our customers is finding ways to really limit what customers need to do to be PCI compliant. And I'll dive into that in a moment. But as far as PCI, and it's not a law or regulation, it's really just a set of standards that um, allow for all the cardholder companies to essentially make sure that customers that are taking credit cards are protecting the data appropriately, both in storage and transmission. So essentially, the PCI is composed of 12 main requirements that are broken into 6 areas. So I'll talk briefly a little bit about each of the areas. So the first main area is to make sure that you've got a secure network and systems put in place to handle cardholder data. And the Smarter Commerce Cloud essentially handles that for customers. So we have our entire infrastructure built out in AWS. We supply redundancy for all of our systems to allow for continuous uptime when taking credit card transactions. The the next area is protecting cardholder data. That's essentially handled by the different payment gateways that we support. So anytime a credit card is taken, that information is passed through the gateway, and it is stored for uh, different durations of time, depending on if you're using it for just a simple authorization and then you settle the transaction. The card number is held for a shorter period of time, but we do offer the ability to store cards on file. That information, again, is kept longer at the payment gateways so that you can reutilize that card number. The next few areas are more about controls and programs to essentially make sure that vulnerabilities are kept away from your systems. So as a service provider, we have a very strong vulnerability management program where we're kept up to date on any new vulnerabilities, and all our systems go through quarterly scans to make sure that we're maintaining that compliance. Strong access control measures. All access to any systems requires that you use some controls, for example, such as MFA, multi-factor authentication, essentially to make sure that anybody that's going to access any resources that are part of our solution, they're going through and using the appropriate security controls. And the last few points, we regularly monitor and test all of our systems, and then we maintain an information security policy to make sure that all of our personnel are up to date on the latest related to PCI and security. So the other piece that we get asked a lot from customers is what do I need to do as an organization to be PCI compliant? If you partner with Smarter Commerce to essentially take the brunt of the uh, workload as far as PCI off your plate, that That's essentially step one. The other piece that you can do is use the software in a way to limit the interaction with card data. So, as Jerry had mentioned, we have the ability to allow you to essentially have your customers uh, use their enter the card data through an email that they receive. And Diego will demonstrate this in a few moments. But if you use the capabilities where an email is being sent as opposed to somebody entering the card data in an iframe, that's going to reduce the compliance level as far as a self-assessment questionnaire to what's called an SAQ-A, which is, as you can see in the difficulty column, that's the easiest of the questionnaires. There's essentially just a couple pages of questions that you have to answer, mostly about how you're offloading a lot of the requirements to a third party, in this case, Smarter Commerce and the different payment gateways. If you choose to not use the email capabilities and you take on the responsibility for having your employees' key card data in the iframe, then you're going to fall into a different category, which is likely going to be SAQD, or perhaps if you're using one of our e-commerce solutions, it would be an SAQC. So again, the level of work required for PCI compliance depends on how you're using the Smarter Commerce software. So we are very excited to, in the last couple of minutes I have here, to introduce something that's called our Smarter Commerce Trust Center. So we partnered with Vanta, which is essentially a company that helps to facilitate the documentation and controls for different frameworks like PCI. So I'm going to share briefly the um, the Trust Center. Oops, I think I shared the wrong screen. 1 second. Okay, so I'm sharing right now the what's called our Smarter Commerce Trust Center. This is again powered by a company called Vanta. And what it does is it puts all of our compliance information into one portal. And you can, as a customer or a prospect, you can go to the Trust Center and you can see some information about Smarter Commerce as a company. And then you can see an overview of what areas we have achieved compliance, the different controls that we have in place, the different payment gateways or sub-processors that we interact with. And the most important piece here is if you need to get any documentation showing that Smarter Commerce is compliant, you can see we have our attestation of compliance and report on compliance available for download. In order to do that, you have to simply click the request access button, and then you can supply some information, and then we can give you access to be able to download the appropriate documents as needed. So we see this as a very valuable resource. And once you're in, you also have the ability to ask a question. So if there's any details that you need on how Smarter Commerce is handling a certain aspect of security, you can simply put the question and that will search through all the documents that we have to provide the best answer. So definitely very excited and encourage customers or any prospects to visit our Trust Center to get more information on how we are doing security at Smarter Commerce. So with that being said, I'm going to pass the control over to Diego Fernandez so that he can start everybody or share with everybody a demonstration of our solution.
Excellent, Diego. We're looking at your screen.
Thank you, Jerry, Alex, for that introduction. Again, this is Diego Fernandez is now speaking, and I am the Director of Product. And over the next 30 minutes or so, we're going to walk through some feature functionality of our solution as it relates to capabilities that have been introduced more recently to align more to the requirements of PCI. So Let's go ahead. I am sharing here a version of JD Edwards in our demonstration environment, and we'll go in and log in here to our demonstration. And for this first few steps, what I'm going to do is walk through an order to cash process, interacting with a customer on the phone, placing an order, and then obviously that customer desiring to pay for that order via a credit card. So we've introduced the capability here where obviously when you put in your customer information and the products that they want to order, whatever that may be. And because this customer desires to pay with a credit card, we have the traditional way of entering a credit card, which is credit card authorization, where your salesperson or CSR enters the credit card being dictated to them via the telephone by the customer. But we've introduced a new capability where it will allow your customers themselves to enter the credit card via an encrypted link that is emailed or texted to them if they have a smartphone to be able to type in their credit card information directly into the payment portal. So here, your CSR or salesperson, once they have their order totals that need to be authorized, would click this button here, authorize by message, and all of these options are configurable as to which ones you want to allow your CSR and salespersons to do. And then they can either type in a telephone number or search the phone number system within your Who's Who, or select an email associated again from the Who's Who, or type in the emails separated by a semicolon if there's more than one that you wish to send this email to. And this will send an email to the customer so that the customer can go in and enter the credit card information themselves. At this point, the CSR is done with the transaction, meaning they can disconnect from the customer and allow them to continue their normal routines and attend to an additional customer. But in the meantime here, the customer will receive an email for this order. And the order that we just entered just a moment ago is order 9135. And we'll notice here that the order went in with a specific hold code. This is again configurable by your solution and your environment. And this is now waiting. This hold code means that it's waiting for the customer to do their part and enter in the credit card number once they receive the email. So the customer will receive an email similar to this email that I am showing here on the screen. The email, it would be formatted with your logo, branding, and verbiage. It will obviously, the customer will receive knowing that their order number and the total that they need to authorize. The customer then via their smartphone or tablet or PC would take this encrypted link, which will drive them to the PayCloud payment portal, again, branded to your corporate standards. And it's here that the customer can choose their method of payment, and based on the payment options that you've configured and allow. So they can see their order number and their date for their order and PO number. They can see their customer information here, their order totals to be authorized, along with information related to their order so that they can verify their products that are part of their order. And then if they agree to, they'll go ahead and enter in their credit card information themselves. remembering this is the customer that is doing this functionality. So they're the ones, once they receive this email, that key in all of their credit cards. So there's no interaction with the salesperson here or the CSR. All of the ownership of this data is really on the customer themselves to key in that information. And it's being keyed in directly into a payment portal, which is hosted by us and by the payment processor that we are working with. Once the customer has entered in their information, they would click apply, which will validate their credit card and allow them now to process their authorization payment against this specific order. At this point, the customer is done. They don't really have anything else they need to do. They've authorized their credit card for this order. And now back in JD Edwards, there is a process that we configure within your solution that will execute as often as you desire it to execute. Most customers are running this about every 15 or 30 minutes. And it's basically retrieving all of the payments being done in the payment portal by customers to then release orders and associate a payment to that order. So here we're going to go ahead and execute that process by hand. And we'll give it just a moment to process. It goes out, and you'll notice here the hold code, once I refresh my screen, has been eliminated because now we have a satisfactory authorization of a credit card against this order, associated to this order, and tokenized. So that now if I go into the details of payments here, we can see the actual transaction, the credit card transaction and authorization, along with the token authorization ID and some additional information related to that credit card. So as easy as that, you've completely eliminated the aspects of hearing of your sales personnel or CSRs hearing the credit card information, or having to type it into your systems in any way or fashion. So you've completely eliminated that aspect, reducing your PCI compliance as it relates to credit card processing, and really pushing all of that capability out to your customers, forcing them obviously to enter in their credit card information into the payment portal that is hosted by Smarter Commerce and the payment processor. So at this point, this transaction is ready to continue the process, meaning that it would go through pick, pack, and ship, remembering that we've only authorized funds on the credit card. So we need to walk the order through and charge the actual credit card. So we'll take this order here real quick, and we'll go ahead and pick, pack, and ship this order out to the customer. Again, this is not directly related to the credit card processing, but it is part of the order to cash process. So I'll just walk the order through typical steps in an order to cash process. So we're going to go ahead and do the warehouse picking, and then we'll go ahead and ship confirm our order within JD Edwards. And typically after ship confirmation is where customers will do what's called capturing of funds or settlement of funds. This is typically a process that runs unattended. Again, most customers run it multiple times a day in order to charge the actual credit card for the amount of product that has been shipped, plus any sales tax, if there's sales tax that applies, or any freight or delivery fees that have been added into the order. So here, this process would run unattended and normally at most customers, but we'll go ahead and just run it for our order here manually. Obviously, it can be also executed on a manual basis, but basically here, it will go ahead and process that order and charge the credit card into to the customer's card. So if we look at our report here, this is a critical report that should be utilized by your accounting folks to reconcile the monies the next day. We can see here the amount that has been charged to the MasterCard and settled as part of this final transaction that has now been shipped and out the door. So now that we've authorized the funds on the card and we've now charged the funds on the card, then the next steps in the typical process is to print invoices and do what's called the sales update. And that will go ahead and create the transaction and in the JD Edwards accounts receivable system. So we're going to go ahead and print invoices for our order here so that we can provide that to the customer as an invoice print, and we'll also go ahead and do the sales update as part of the process here. And the last step of our solution that is critical to the process is we want to make sure that since we've already charged the credit card and we've collected the funds on that credit card for that order, we need to clear off that invoice in the accounts receivable system and apply the payment. That is done with this set of UBEs that is provided with our solution. These reports will go ahead and process through those payments and apply them automatically. Now here in my environment, I haven't executed them yet, but if I go here to customer ledger and we look up our sales order that we're working with, we'll notice that the order is currently in an open status for that amount. But I'm going to go ahead and execute now the payment post program, which will then take all of those settlements and automatically post them against the AR trade. So this will take the process from end to end, meaning you entered a sales order, you marked it as a credit card payment order, you emailed an encrypted link to the customer, they went through and entered their credit card information, we authorized funds during that process on the credit card, you picked, packed, and shipped it, we settled and charged, now did what's called the capture of funds, and now in this process, we're going to post that information right into accounts receivable as a cash application. And if I refresh my screen here, you'll notice that the open amount is now gone and a receipt record is now created as part of the transaction, applying the credit card charge directly into and closing out that invoice. So the only thing that's left now is reconciling all of these payments that were charged via credit card, reconciling them against the monies received from the merchant bank via a wire transfer. And we also have processes that help you there through our payment reconciliation processes. We can auto load all of those wire transfers and then apply them and reconcile them. Or if you desire, you can manually reconcile those transactions on a one-off basis here as needed, and ticking and tying those transactions to make sure that you've gotten paid on every transaction that you've charged or settled through the credit card solution. So as you can see, we take it from end to end and also help you in reconciling and managing all of your payments from your merchant bank. And at no point did your CSR or sales personnel ever enter or hear the customer's credit card information, all of that being managed and pushed out to the customer and making sure that they did their part in the ordering process. So that's an order to cash process that we have as part of the solution in order to help automate those capabilities. But we've extended these features not only for the sales order process, but also within the accounts receivable collections capability. So then a lot of times customers that maybe are have terms with you or place the order against their credit limit, and now 30 days later want to make a payment and they prefer to use a credit card or make an ACH payment, we have capabilities around that as part of this. So if a customer wants to do that, there's multiple ways of managing that, meaning we have a complete collections module that will email invoices as they're coming due to your customer base. You configure these. You select which customers you want to put into this program, and it will automatically email the customer a reminder email. It'll look something along this manner, again, branded with your logo and explanation here, and it will let the customer know that they have a couple of invoices that are coming due within the next 15, 30, 45 days, depending on how you've configured the system and how often you want to send reminders. This will then obviously encourage the customer and remind them that invoices are coming due. And they would act on this email again by taking the encrypted Pay Now, which will then drive them to the payment portal, where they'll see a list of their invoices. They'll see their customer information. Again, this payment portal would be branded to your corporate standards. And it's here that your customer would see their invoices that are coming due. They would select those invoices for payment and then walk through the payment process, electing which method they desire to use, whether it be credit card or it be an ACH payment, if they desire to then go through a ACH transfer. So as you can see here, again, the customer is the one entering in their information directly into the payment portal or into the hosted payment gateway information that is available to them. So they would enter in their ACH information for their bank of how they want to pay via an ACH bank transfer, or if they want to utilize a credit card, or we have now alternative payment capabilities around PayPal as an alternative payment, Google Pay, Apple Pay, and even now with this latest release, we introduced Venmo and Fastlane Pay. So there's different additional capabilities that are available as payment options to allow your customers to collect and make payment on those open AR invoices. With again, the important point here is that we are pushing out the responsibility of that credit card information or bank account information out to the customer. We don't want to hear that information or have their sales personnel or accounting personnel having to type in that information themselves. So we have capabilities around a reminder system that you can configure in order to send out reminders of for payments that are or invoices that are coming due. But we've taken it even a step further where your customers can set up an auto pay and a set of auto pay rules, meaning that they can save a credit card on file or a bank account on file and go through and configure auto pay rules so that once the invoices come due, they are automatically charged to either the credit card or a ACH transfer is initiated for payment for those invoices. A lot of our customers are utilizing this capability in order to, provide, well, a better cash flow, and part of the negotiation of onboarding their customer, they need to set up auto pay rules in order to make sure that payments are timely based on agreed terms as they are coming due. And here you would set up, here's an example of a customer where I've set up invoices due 2 days prior to invoice due date. You can set up different rules here based on it. You can make it one payment, on a fixed day of the week for whatever invoices are open, or a payment on a fixed day of the month for whatever invoices are open, or even charge a payment based on invoice date. Customers have even taken this, for loan payments where they can specify a set number of payments to be paid over a period of time in order to reduce maybe an large open AR balance, and then over time reduce it maybe $1,000 a month or so on, and set up a repetitive payment or charge against a credit card or ACH. But once the rule is set with your customer, whatever that is, then we have processes that read the rule and go out and auto create a charge and clear off those invoices that are due based on that specific rule. So this has helped our customer base in order to maintain their cash flow positioning, going through the process of charging those credit cards based on the selection of those invoices and those that meet the rule, or processing an ACH to pay off and clear off those invoices based on the rule that has been placed. So we have multiple introduction of different capabilities here to help you not only with cash management and collection, but also offload all of that credit card or bank account information to really to be self-serviced by your customer base, and where your employees never hear or have to type in that credit card information. Now, this is all good and well if I have, and I'm doing this through JD Edwards, but what if you want to offer a complete portal where your customers can self-service themselves and manage all of this themselves, where they don't have to even call in to your call center and speak to someone? Well, we have capabilities there also through our electronic invoice and presentment portal, what we term internally our e-payments customer portal, which this is an example of that, our demonstration example for this fictitious company. And here, this would be branded to your corporate standards, and your customers would have a login that with credentials that they control, and they would type in whatever their credentials are that are tied to their customer within your JD Edwards system. This sits on top of your JD Edwards system, allowing your customer base to go in and self-service themselves and see their exposure with you, view and pull down historical information, and also make payment right through here as things are due. So they can see how many invoices they have open and how many are coming due. And obviously, being demonstration data here, all of the invoices are due. I can manage my own cards on file and bank account information on file, all stored within the payment portal and the payment processor. None of this is stored locally within your JD Edwards. It's all tokenized, and what is stored locally is the token ID. And then they can see aging information all through the portal coming from JD Edwards. And here, as a customer, I can then go right in and make payment on those open invoices. I can see which invoices I want to make payment on. I can filter based on criteria. But once I found the invoices, I can go through and make payment on those invoices and completely self-service based on that. So I can either do an ACH payment or credit card payment to clear off whatever invoices are needed. I would go through, and once I've elected those charges and invoices that I want to make payment on, I would go ahead and enter in whatever credit card information is necessary. So here the customer is self-servicing themselves, entering in their credit card information and making payment on those open AR invoices to automatically clear off those invoices. So they would enter in themselves the credit card information, and once validated, they would go ahead and make payment, and that will then charge their credit card and then clear those invoices back in your JD Edwards, applying the payment against those invoices. And then they can print off a receipt if they so desire through here. And just like we saw within the JD Edwards application, they can also schedule payments here, or they can set up and maintain their auto payment rules so that they can also set up an auto pay rule and maintain it directly through here if you want to extend that capability out to your customer base. So this allows them the same rules that you see or we just saw within Edwards, but managing them directly through the e-payments self-service portal, allowing them to manage all of that. And also as part of the e-payments portal, they can come through and see complete invoice history of not only open invoices, but closed invoices that have already been paid in case they need to download any type of documents. So as part of the payment portal, they can filter on a specific document that they may be looking at and be able to verify and download the actual invoice directly to their computer. Or if all they want to do is look at details of an invoice, they can just go in and view the details of that invoice, whether it be open or closed and what was purchased on that invoice for a quick view. And they have the same capability for order history. Again, looking at actual orders in your JD Edwards. Again, this is sitting on top of your JD Edwards, allowing them to self-service themselves and inquire, reducing the calls into your call center to confirm an order status, or if it's already been shipped, or if they need to pull down a invoice document as part of the overall capability. So not only is it a payment portal from a self-service basis, but also a order and invoice history inquiry portal, allowing them to inquire on information within the solution. So as you can see, we are trying to extend a lot of these capabilities out to the customer base from a self-service functionalities to reduce the number of calls into your call center, but also reduce the exposure of having to read off or enter in that credit card information by your employees in your organization. All of this information can be found within our documentation. We make all of our documentation public to our customers and prospects. So if you go out to our website, smartercommerce.net, and you go out to resources, product documentation, you'll find information on all of our solutions here. The two that we focused on today are found within this section of payments, the payment processing capabilities around the pay cloud that you're interacting with and your customers would interact with, your invoice presentment and payment portal. All of those capabilities and feature functionality is found here. As you can see, that we're just highlighting some of the capabilities, but there's a lot more capabilities that we've introduced with the different releases that we've brought to bear, such as deposit and installment payment capability, such as surcharge fees. A lot of customers now are taking advantage of passing on credit card surcharge fees and offering other alternative payments that do not have a surcharge, such as ACH or pay with an alternative payment such as Apple Pay or Google Pay as an additional payment. And then also scheduling of payments into the future. All of these capabilities you'll find documented here that are now available to the solution to be able to extend those capabilities out to your customer base and give them more flexibility in what and how to maintain their collections up to date and their payments up to date. All right, as you can see, this was just a quick snapshot of some of the functionality and how we've continued to improve on our solution in order to help you reduce the scope of your PCI and also increase functionality and capabilities around our solution so that you can extend that out to your own customer base. But at this point, I'm going to go ahead and stop presenting and pass the presentation back to Jerry for any final question and answers and comments. Thank you very much.
Excellent. Thank you, Diego. Big thank you to the audience for joining us today. We've got a couple minutes left on the clock, so let me highlight some key next steps here. Hey, if you have an existing or future JD Edwards credit card need or payment need, please reach out to our team. You can see our contact information on the screen, and we'll have somebody from our marketing team reach out to you over the next couple of days, not just to share the recording, but also to connect with you and understand how we can help you streamline payments inside of JD Edwards and streamline PCI compliance. That being said, as I mentioned during the beginning of our time together, the webinar has been recorded. We will be distributing this. It'll likely go live on our YouTube channel. And a big special thank you to all the customers that have joined us, as well as everybody that submitted a question throughout the webinar. We thank you guys for your time. We look forward to helping you, and you guys have a great rest of your day. Take care.